lesson series, actually, on sawmill tuning. In this lesson series, we'll be going over everything to do with sawmill tuning. How to get there, different chords to play with it, scales, songs. But in this first video, we're just going to be going over the basics. So how to get to sawmill tuning, what is it, a couple scales, and a couple common chord fingerings. And that'll be it for the first lesson. And then we'll save the more complicated stuff for the future. We'll do some songs, we'll do two-finger technique, and we'll do claw hammer technique, all in sawmill tuning. All right, so what is sawmill tuning? I sort of made this video in response to a cool video someone put on Reddit of them playing claw hammer ukulele in sawmill tuning. And I thought that it might be cool to show everyone what that is. Sawmill tuning, also known as mountain minor, mountain modal, probably a bunch of other names too, is really a banjo tuning. It is a tuning that's popular on the 5-string banjo. It's used a lot for claw hammer, 2-finger, and 3-finger as well. It is similar to Orkney tuning that some Celtic players use on guitar. It gets a really nice sound. It's usually used to give a minor sound, but it can be used to give a major sound as well. It's used a lot for murder ballads, dark, melancholic, sad songs. It sort of gives that atmosphere. And so, step one, we got to get there. So, a regular ukulele. This is a tenor ukulele with low G. All right, this lesson we'll be using low G. We'll be doing high G in some future ones, but this one we'll be using low G. But you can certainly follow along with the lesson with a high G ukulele. All the chord shapes will be the same. All the scales will be the same. You'll just have some funny octave differences. But yeah, if you have a high G ukulele, please follow along with this video too. No problem. All right. So ukulele, tenor ukulele. Most people probably have a soprano or a concert or a tenor. Those are the three most popular. This will apply for any of them. I'm not going to be going up very high on the fretboard. I'll be stopping. I won't go any higher than the 12th fret, and most of the time not higher than the 3rd or 5th. So like I said, any ukulele would be fine. If you have a baritone, you can do that too. You can retune it to the same intervals. It just won't sound exactly the same, but all the shapes will follow through. They'll just have different chord names. Right? So, all right. Regular ukulele tuning, I'm sure you're all familiar with, is G, C, E, E, A. Yeah. Sorry, I've been retuning a lot, so it's not very good. So, like I said, this is low G, so if this was a high G ukulele, it'd sound, but it's a low G, so. Now, ukulele tuning is not what we'd call an open tuning. What is an open tuning? An open tuning is when you strum it like this with no frets, and it plays a chord. All right, now technically, when I do it to this ukulele, this is a chord. This is a C6 chord. So debatably, it is an open tuning, but generally when we talk about open tunings on guitars and ukuleles and banjos, we're referring to like a major or a minor chord, probably. That can be made without fretting, not necessarily like a 6th chord. We're usually avoiding any extensions. So yeah, this is G, C, E, A, which is the traditional tuning of the ukulele, although a lot of people put it a step up, so it starts in D. But A, D, F sharp, B. But this is G, C, E, A. It's based on the Spanish guitar tuning, which is a great tuning that gives you a lot of compromise between being able to do chords and being able to do anything melodically. That you want that way. You know, the ukulele tuning is great for playing lines and playing complex chords. We can go like... but it's not so great necessarily for staying there and just riffing. Open tunings are better for that. So a common open tuning on lots of instruments that people get to on ukulele is open C. So that's when we take this high A string right here and we're going to drop it down 2 notes from A down to G sharp, and then from G sharp down to G. Now, pro tip, when you're tuning, you always want to tune up. not down. Now, how is that possible? I'm going to go below G and then tune up to it. That'll give me more accurate tuning that won't change as much as I'm playing. So, we've now got G, C, E, G again. And like I said, if this was re-entrant, it'd sound like this. These would be the same note on re-entrant, but right now they're the same note an octave apart. Now this is open C tuning. This is very popular for slide guitar, Celtic, and it's also popular on the banjo. This tuning on the banjo would be called open G, and it's the standard banjo tuning. I think we can all, there's plenty of standard tunings, but I think we can all agree that open G is the standard banjo tuning. So this open C is an imitation of that. It'd be the same as open G on a banjo, fretted at the 5th fret, right? Boom. All right, so now we've got this nice open tuning. When I strum it, it plays a G chord. If I go like that, it plays an A chord. If I go like that, see? C, F, G. And then you can obviously have regular fingerings too. So that's open G tuning. That is not Sawmill tuning. We need to make one more change before we get to Sawmill, Mountain Minor, Mountain Modal tuning. Remember, those are all names for Sawmill tuning. All right, so like I said, we have G, C, E, G. That spells a C chord, a C major chord. What we're going to do is we're going to change this E. We're going to raise it 1/2 step up to F. So, you got your tuner. Tune it up until it says F. Now note about retuning. If you've never retuned your ukulele before, it might not sit in these tunings very well right away. You might have to retune a couple times to get there. It won't stay there all the time. That's okay. That's totally normal. Eventually they'll settle in and get used to it. All right? So like I said, we just changed this E to F. So now we have a nice G, C, F, G tuning. Like I said, I gotta retune this. It doesn't settle. Alright, so what is that? Basically, we've taken the open C tuning and we've raised the E, which is the major third of the C chord, and we raised it to it's an F. So now it's the 4th of the chord. So now, when we strum this, it's no longer a quote-unquote open tuning. I mean, it sort of is, because it's a C suspended chord. It's C sus4. Basically, we've gotten rid of the major third in it, right here, and made it a 4th. Right? So F is now the 4th. So that gives us a very neutral sounding open strum there. It could be minor or major depending on what's going on in the rest of the song, what the melody's hitting, whatever. So you could play something in a minor key or like Dorian or Alien, or you could work out something in a major key like natural major or Mixolydian. It's really useful for that, but it's also really useful for playing lick-based songs like exhale, I open the gate through heaven or hell. Whoa, death, just bear me over another year. And that was giving it a minor sound. But if I want to give it a major sound, I can do that too. Here's another song. I'm hitting that major third, and because of the ambiguity in the tuning, it works great. You can switch back and forth between major and minor all the time, which is a major concept of the blues and bluesiness, which sort of informs almost all aspects of American folk music. All right, so remember, we've got the tuning down where G, C, F, G. All right, and so let's learn a few chords in this tuning. because this tuning isn't really all about chords, but you can definitely play the important ones. It's not as good for playing like complex chords. Like if you were a jazz musician, I don't think you'd want to use this tuning, but it works great for this stuff. You'll find this in the little tab flyer I have attached in the description, but I'm going to go over them in this video as well. So, like I said, the open is a C suspended chord, or a sus4 chord. The third is suspended, it is omitted, and has been replaced by the fourth. That's what this is. That's the open strum. A lot of people don't like this sound, so the home sound for this tuning a lot of the times is this chord right here. I'm taking my, I'm going to use my middle finger on this one, and I'm putting it on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string, which used to be the E string, now it's the F string. I'm probably not going to use a lot of string names in this video just because of that. I'm going to go with 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? Alright, so 2nd fret, 2nd string. This is like what's described as the home chord for Sawmill tuning. And we're moving it up till it's a 5th. So this is now no longer a C sus4 chord. It's kind of like a C5 chord or a C no third chord. There's no third and there's no fourth. A really cool effect is to strum it and then hammer on. So yeah, home chord, C5. This is probably the most common chord that you're going to see. Get used to doing this. Second most common chord is, this is going to be B flat. So normally you're probably used to doing B flat this way with standard tuning. But we do it a little differently here because the tuning's different. So it's going to be 3rd fret, 1st string. This one's open, 2nd string is open. 2nd fret, 3rd string, and then 3rd fret on the 4th string. Pro tip, because these are both G, they're probably almost always going to be fretting the same thing. So if one is here for a chord, then your other finger's probably got to be there. There are exceptions, but that's generally how it is. So, boom. We've got B flat. So we went from C5 to B flat. And now just these two chords are really useful. You can play a lot of songs with these ones. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, my darling, Shady Grove, my little love, I'm going back to Harlan. Oh, the cuckoo, she's a fine bird, but she wobbles as she flies, and she never hollers cuckoo till the 4th day of July. Cluck, old hen, cluck and sing, ain't laid an egg since way last spring. Alright, so we got C, B flat. This chord progression right here is going to be used a lot, especially in Dorian progressions and Mixolydian progressions, because this chord, music theory, is the 7th of the G, the flat 7th. I'm sorry, of the C. B flat is the flat 7th of the C. So just these two chords, if you know just these two chords, you can play probably half the songs in Sawmill tuning, I imagine. Alright, so we've got C, we've got B flat. Alright, now we're going to do F. Okay, you're used to this F chord. F chord here is 2nd fret on the 1st string, open on the 2nd string, open on the 3rd string, 2nd fret again on the 4th string. And that's F. So we've got C5, E flat, and F. Now this enables us to play us even more songs, because if we start in F, we've now got a 1, 4, 5. And that progression has no third. I'm singing the major third, our brains hear it, it's not really a big deal. So, alright, those are the 3 most important chords in sawmill tuning. A lot of people only know those and they get along fine. I'm going to throw another one in. I'm going to throw E flat in, because that is it's a pretty important one too. So that is going to be 3rd fret on the 1st string, 2nd fret on the 2nd string, 3rd fret on the 3rd string. Boo. One of those rare cases where these aren't going to be the same, but like I said, it happens, but most of the time you're playing the same thing. So what does this get us? So you can do things like Jolene, 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 begging of you, please don't take my man. Sorry, I don't normally sing it in that key. Or we could do 45, 2 zigzags, baby, that's all we need. We go to the park after dark, smoke that tumbleweed. Alright, so go over those chords one more time. We've got C5, we've got B flat, we've got C, and we've got E flat. Alright, now these are all in the tab, so make sure that you're going through that so you get a handle on these chords. You don't actually need to know any chords really to play in this tuning, but it is helpful if you're singing. Going on to that, the reason you don't need to play a lot of chords in this tuning is because it's just a really cool, I touched on it before, it's just a really cool tuning for riffing. And you can basically just riff all day if you know the right notes to riff on. And there's a couple different options, but it's all really easy. Let me just show you the basics. So you can do something like this. So basically, most of the time when I'm riffing, I'm either doing it in the open, or I'm doing it in the home chord position right here. I like, a lot of times, you just get used to keeping your finger right here and doing things with your other. Alright, so we're going to go over the real reason this works so well, and it's pentatonic scales. A lot of music is just based on pentatonic scales, which are 5-note scales. Basically, usually scales have 7 notes, and pentatonics sort of eliminate the notes that don't always sound good. Some notes don't sound good all the time. Sometimes they sound a little dissonant. Sometimes they work great, but in pentatonics, it just makes it easy. You basically don't have any bad notes. That's a huge oversimplification, but that's my explanation. That's what most blues guitarists, rock guitarists play when you hear of, like, when you think about, like, fancy, maybe not fancy, but like hard rock or blues shredding. It's mostly pentatonics. It's the same 5 notes repeated over and over again with style and phrasing and experience. And this tuning allows you to play those pentatonics really easily. So we're going to go over the first pentatonic, C minor pentatonic, all right? So it starts on the C. This is our C note, right? C, that's the root, the 1. Now we need to find the minor third, which is the 3rd fret of the same string. Right? Now the next note is the 4th, which is F, which is the open string right here. So now we've got O, 3, O. We got to go to the 5. It's the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. So we've got, and you notice that the 2nd fret of the 2nd string is the same sound as the open string right here. So you can play either. So we got 3rd fret of the 1st string, 5th fret, 8th fret, 10th fret, 12th fret. Yeah, you can keep going, but we'll just concern ourselves with the down ones right here. So if you start on the C, it's this is the root, but we've got some notes below it. We've got the 7th down here, and then we've got the 5th. So we can go O, 3, O, 3, O, 2, 3, 5, 5, 3, O, O, 3, O, 3, O. Now these pentatonics sound really good with all each other, so you can strum the whole chord and then hammer one on and it'll sound great. Yeah, so just practice going through that. There's some exercises in the tab, but the gist of it is just play the note and then strum the chord. Play the note, keep it fretted, and strum the chord. And it sounds a little formulaic, but once you get this down, start doing things like start to get a little phrasing. So that's the C minor pentatonic scale, and that's the main one we're using in Sawmill tuning. But there is another one we use a lot too. Sometimes we'll play this tuning out of the G position or the fifth position, and we want to use the G minor pentatonic scale, which is also in the tab. But to go over it real quick, this one we're starting on G because it's G minor, and it's going to be basically the same system. We're going O, 3, O, O, sorry, yeah, O, and instead of going to the 3rd fret this time on the 3rd string, we're going to go to the 2nd. So it's, but everything else is pretty much the same. Same thing. You could try doing that pentatonic scale playing the open string. All right. So now we've got 2 scales that we can play pretty easily in Sawmill tuning. We've got G minor pentatonic. We've got C minor pentatonic. Right? Almost the same, just one note different. So a lot of times you can switch back and forth between them for a little variety, because that note is also in a couple other scales they have in common. It's a little confusing, which leads us into the next reason that a lot of people like Sawmill tuning, is it's great for playing songs in the Dorian mode. What is Dorian mode? I'll probably do a separate video on this because it's a whole lot to tackle, especially if you don't really have a good handle on the major scale yet. But essentially, we all know the major scale, right? Actually, it's using the major scale at a different starting point with a different tonal center. So instead of the tonal center being the root or the 1 in the major scale, it's the 2, which becomes the Dorian mode, and it gives it a minor sound. That's not a very good explanation at all. I'm very sorry, but like I said, I'll do a separate video on it. But essentially, this lets us play the Dorian mode very easily. And the Dorian mode is just basically the same thing as a regular natural minor scale, except it's got a major 6 instead of a minor 6. So, for instance, in C minor, this is C. This would be the minor 6. But for Dorian, it would be this. So a very Dorian sound. When someone says this is a very Dorian sound, they're talking about a minor sound with this raised 6. So a good example of that would be Cold Frosty Morning, which is. So yeah, when I got to the B part there, that's the Dorian sound. So we'll just go over the C Dorian scale, which is a C minor scale with a raised 6 real quick. It's in the tab, but we'll go over it right here, okay? So we'll start on C, 2nd fret, 3rd string, 3rd fret, 3rd string, open, 2nd string, 2nd fret, 2nd string, 2nd fret, 1st string, 3rd fret, 1st string, and then 5th fret. So boom. So yeah. So that's in the tab too. All right. So what I want you to do now for homework is go through the tab. Make sure you have all the chords down. Make sure you can play the C minor pentatonic scale, the G minor pentatonic scale, and the C Dorian scale. And make sure you can play them like this while you're strumming the chords. So that's the first step in getting fluent. Once you start being able to do this, you can do. All right, so that's the end of the first lesson. In the next lesson, we'll be going over, it's be splitting into 2. We'll be going over the basics of 2-finger style on low G ukulele, and then claw hammer style on high G ukulele, okay? So stay tuned for those lessons. And if you have any questions or issues, if I did anything wrong, or if I said anything offensive, let me know in the comments, okay? Thanks.